Good morning, and thank you for being here. It's a lot of energy for June morning, Monday morning, so thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to just kick off a little bit and give you a little bit of an overview of today, give you an overview of who's in here, and then I'll introduce what you all came here for, which I know was not me, to hear our speaker, Dr. McClenney, who we're really, really glad is here with us today. So, welcome to the first CAC Symposium, or Summit, or whatever you want to call it, but we're pretty excited. We decided it needed a fancy name, as it really does mark another milestone in our student success journey. So we're calling it Welcome to the CAC Symposium. I'm thrilled. I think I know everybody in the room, but just in case, I'm Jana Schwartz. I'm now the Dean of Pathways and Student Success, moving from the Dean of Student Affairs. And I'm thrilled to get to be doing this work now full-time and working with all of you. So thank you so much for being here. I'd like to start by recognizing some of the groups that are in the room today and in new roles and taking on new things. So I would like to have the members of the Student Success Council please stand and be recognized. So as you all know, we were very lucky last fall to receive the Title III Strengthening Institutions grant to continue the Pathways work. As a part of that, we knew we needed a coordinating council, and we needed a next step from the Student Success Committee had been there. So we went from a committee to a council, so Student Success Council. And this group is just getting started in their work. We had a retreat earlier and had a couple meetings at the end of the spring semester, but we're really coming together, and that will be the group that will help guide the next steps of this work. As we're going to talk about, in many, many ways, we've done a lot of work. And in many ways, we're starting right now, right? And so this group is really that group that will serve as a coordinating piece of that. I'd like to, in particular, sorry, she doesn't like public recognition, but Kathleen Heffley, have her stand up. Don't know her, you should. She's brilliant, but she is a faculty member here at the Boulder County campus and will co-chair the Student Success Council with me. The other piece about Kathleen and Chris, wave Chris, Chris, in the back row. I've never seen Chris in the back row in my life. But Kathleen and Chris really were the group that took the steps to bring the CACs to life. So part of being here today is really thanks to their work. So thank you very much. Would our Pathways advisors and advising teams please stand up? So here's the deal. They're like at 11 months of being here with us. This was a major step in our student success work and really our investment in our students. They have done an incredible amount of work to get us where we are today. And we're so thankful for them. They absolutely joined the plane, and we told them that it was flying, but they sort of had to build it while we went, right? They were very much a part of that group. And here's the kicker. We've got them all still. They're all with us. They're still passionate. They're still throwing new ideas out there. They're working across the campuses. They're really bringing the CACs to life as we know them now. So thank you to our Pathways advisors. And can I recognize Cabinet, please? They're the slowest to stand up, as per usual. So as you know, Cabinet are not necessarily in new roles, except for Kathy Pellish, who abandoned me, but joined and is leading the Westminster campus. But they, as with all of our roles with Pathways, they do have new roles. All of our roles are changing. The way we're doing our work is changing. And I have been able to be in the Pathways Institutes. I've been able to be all over looking at other schools trying to do this work. And I am so thankful for the cabinet we have. I'm so thankful for their willingness to try and to think and to plan and try again and continue to doing that. And for sure, I'd like to recognize President Dorsey for being the leader in that. I think Andrea is still out. Andrea might peek in. She's not going to peek in if she doesn't have to, but please help me in recognizing Andrea, who pulls off every detail to make this happen. And most importantly for today, Mary Lee, can you stand up and wave? I am so glad that we were able to have Mary Lee join, and she is really the one who has the vision and is carrying the CACs to the next part. So she is working part-time as an instructional dean, which is more than part-time, right? And part-time with the Title III grant student success work, supplemental instruction, career and academic communities. It's full and it's huge, and I just can't thank you enough for all that you have done. So thank you, Mary Lee. There are lots of others of you in the room, so we'll just do quick pop-ups now. Ready? Instructional and student affairs deans. Yay. Our student life staff. Our marketing team. Hi, Sean. Our academic services team. And if I've missed anybody else, please, thank you. We know that everybody's role in the college is changing right now, right? That just comes with this work. We're working together differently. We're thinking about our roles differently. And so everyone who's in here has contributed to that. And one of the most exciting pieces of this for me is we've had some people in here who've been involved since 2014 and have seen this vision all the way through. And there's some brand new faces. There are some people who even are so brave to pick up the Redesigning America's Community Colleges book and read it for the first time while sitting in here today. That is awesome. It is so great to have new voices, new faces coming to this. And so thank you for being here in whichever way you come, and we really look forward to working with you. Of course, the most important partners, as Mary Lee is always so good about saying, are not in the room at all. They're in our hallways or in our classrooms or doing the work, right? And that's our students. So in all of our work and all of our time together, absolutely are we trying to redesign what we do? Yes. And change how we work with each other? Yes. But it's all in the best interest of our students and what our students need. So although they're not in here, let's recognize our students. So anytime they give me a microphone, I'm going to do this. So some of you have seen this presentation, some of you have heard this stuff before, but I think it's helpful to kind of get that place of where are we coming from, where are we starting, who are we at. So if you just bear with me for a couple minutes, I'd like to share with you kind of the history and what brought us to today. So as you know, this has been a college. How many of you have been here well before 2014? Yeah, were you working on student success before that? No, of course you were, right? Of course this has always been a college who has been absolutely committed to student success. In fact, many of the initiatives that we're now rolling out have been piloted, have been tried, have been designed and talked about before. So it's not that it was new. The new was how we were coming together and doing it. So I want to recognize that all that work happened. I also want to recognize Mary Lee and Chris, who led the Student Success Task Force, who came up with the initiatives that we're now rolling out and working with today. That resulted in what many of you have heard about as the 5 implementation teams or 5 I-teams. And that work is still, that's where we're still coming from, is really what that task force put out for us. In the fall of 2015, we joined the Pathways Institute. This was huge for us. This was really a good organizing effort, but I think it's important to recognize we were committed to doing this work anyway, right? This was really a structure that helped us begin to work together, to help us learn from other institutions, to help us kind of take those next steps. But we were committed to doing this work before we even joined the Pathways Institute, and frankly, the work that we had done up to that point was a part of why we were chosen to be a part of the Pathways Institute. And, as we'll say in a minute, we committed that we would be ready to fully implement Pathways by the fall of 2018. And we're there. So we're going to celebrate that in a second. But one of the major pieces that came out of the Pathways Institute was this idea of meta majors. That was not something that was on our radar prior to that point. We hadn't really thought about it. And we were seeing these schools who went before us really see the benefits of having the meta major concept, which we're calling career and academic communities. So I'm really thankful for the work there, and that really began that piece. So for some of you who had been involved in previous work, you may have said, where did meta majors come from? Where did these CACs come from? Well, it was really an organizing principle that we were seeing other institutions benefit from that we came in. So, yay. Cheer. Yes, we did. When we looked at fall 2018, when we were first in the institutes, what'd you think of that, Andy? Right? It was challenging. We knew that there were a few things that we were going to have to do, and I just have to really say this college has come together. We are not perfect yet, right? We are not at a place where we have everything the way we want it to be, but we have done a tremendous amount of work to really be ready to roll out this fall. Many of you have seen these as well, and I'm sorry for those of you in the back. But the task force rolled out some guiding principles that they said were really critical for us as we thought about taking on the work. That was that initiatives would be college-wide and connected, that we would break down those silos between student affairs and academic affairs, and even if you look across the room today, we're about a 50-50 split. That's really exciting that we're in that space and having these conversations together. That we were going to be a college culture that focused directly and significantly on increasing graduation and transfer rates. We said that's the success measure we're looking at. We want our students to be successful. We are going to do our implementation at scale. We were going to make sure we are assessing those efforts, and that we were going to have college-wide representation from key stakeholders and leadership, which meant, especially with the I-teams, but absolutely on the council also, we have all members of our community represented, and we're asking all voices to come to the table and continue to work on things. And that creates a different conversation than when we work in our siloed groups, right? When faculty are just working with faculty, or student affairs is just working with student affairs. It's a much more rich conversation when we're able to come together. Then the Student Success Committee added some foundational principles for that work. We talked about being student ready. And so I don't know if Kay knows, but Michael Baston came and got us really pumped up, right, about being student ready and really thinking about how are we getting ready for our students we know who they are, right? Instead of telling them they need to be college ready, they need to get ready for us, we're going to get ready for them. We put equity at the center. So the work that we're doing with the philosophy of inclusion and the other pieces are just a part of what we're doing with student success. We're going to be looking at where those structural barriers are in place that are not allowing our students to be successful. We're going to look at where we're going to disaggregate our data and think about how are our students of color doing, how are our first-gen students doing, how are our low-income students doing, and how does that compare with our general student population. We're going to really work to support and simplify the student experience. We had to take some hard looks at how difficult it was to register for classes or to set up what you were trying to do or how to navigate a program. And those weren't things that we had set up intentionally to be complex, right? But they became complex over time. And so part of our work became commitment to support and simplify that student experience. And we talked a lot about this is here to stay. So many people saw these initiatives coming on board and thought, well, right? Maybe we'll outlast it. Maybe it won't be for real. Maybe it'll just be a passing phase. And we said, no, we're going to do everything we can to design to defeat that effect of snapping back to how we always were and really continue to work to change our culture and change the way we do our work. We committed to being a college that was really focused on access, to a college focused on access with success. And I would say the council and where we're at now, we're really looking at access with success plus. Not just success here, but success there. Whatever there is, whether that's a job, whether that's a transfer institution, whatever that is, have we set them up for success in their life and their next step? So taking that the next step beyond even being successful here. Transforming the student experience from connection to completion. That's not an easy task, right? We've been rolling out onboarding, we've been looking at advising in a different way. We're really thinking about every piece of when we talk and touch a student, how are we changing that to be really focused on them? And again, implementing evidence-based programs at scale. So we talked a lot about developing that student success culture, moving from suggesting to requiring, providing that roadmap, and that we talked about how we do this, how we talk to a student, how we interact with them, how we see success matters all the way through. In every interaction, it matters. So continuing to develop that culture. So where do pathways come from? Why pathways? So when the task force worked, they were really looking at the completion by design framework, right? So they were talking a lot about, and we did a lot of kind of college seminars on connection, entry, progress, completion. So that was kind of how we designed, and we're looking at those pieces. And then as we started to do our college visits, as we went out and looked at what other people were doing, we were really seeing people moving from the completion by design to really thinking about pathways and adopting the pathways model. And we felt like as we looked at what our task force recommendations were, the framework of pathways worked really well for the work that we were doing. So the pathways model, as you'll see there, we talk a lot about integrated institution-wide approach to student success based on intentionally designed, clear, coherent, and structured educational experiences, informed by available evidence that guide each student effectively and efficiently from his or her point of entry through to the attainment, so this is the other piece, right? Attainment of a high-quality post-secondary credentials and careers with value in the labor market. So as we looked and considered where we were at, this fit for us. This fit for what we were trying to do. Here are the guided pathways essential practices that we've talked about, right? So clarify paths to student end goals. We've talked a lot about creating those maps and where are students going. We talked about helping students choose and enter a pathway, right? So our colors and our cool buttons, right? Helping our students make that initial choice about what pathway is the right pathway for me. Helping students stay on that path, and then of course, ensuring students are learning. So we talked about our 100 students. So this was a picture of our 100 students using the data from 2016. So we're gonna be updating this. But I put it back up here because this is where we started. And when people say, Jana, really, truly, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Sometimes the easy way for me to say it is, I want more blue and less orange, right? We want more graduates, less lost students. That's what we're looking for. And as we're going, we're gonna be tracking this and seeing who falls into those categories. When we looked at our graduates, and most of you know this now, most of those graduates were our short-term certificate earners. Right? So our 3-year graduation rates, we're not seeing a lot of program completion in terms of our transfer degrees and some of those other pieces. So we really needed to look at that. We needed to look at our students who are transferring and say, are they successful when they transfer? Right? Transfer is a part of our goal. That's what our students will say they want to do. Are they successful when they get there? So we're going to keep coming back to this. And we're going to keep looking. When we talk about moving the needle, this is what we're talking about, right? We want more of our students to hit that success mark that they say they want, right? They come in and tell us when they start with us, this is what they want. So this is mostly for Kathy Pellish because she likes it when we put the green for student impact up there. But so this is kind of how our pattern went. So in the first year, we did a lot of talking with our own community about what's working. We have several presenters come in. Dr. McClenney was here with us in March with the student affairs teams, really helping set that stage. We implemented priority registration, which was huge for us, and we really, really began working on those maps. We knew, again, as part of the Pathways Institute, that without a pathway, without developing what those maps would look like, there was really no other structure we could put in place. We had to do that part first. We had to get that outline first. And so we came in and we went after that. Many of you will say our maps are definitely not perfect. That's right. It's true. We've only taken step 1, right? But we had to design those maps. We had to have them there so we have a program for students to go through. And then we needed to look at ourselves and say, where are those programs working? Where are they not? What are the next steps we need to do? What's the schedule that can work for them? All of those things we know need to come. In year 2, we got our midterm grade reports implemented. That again was one of those things that people said, is that a student success initiative? It is, right? We knew we needed a place for students to say, how am I doing in the classroom? And have that conversation with a faculty member, and for advisors to intervene at that point. Not waiting till the very end of the semester and trying to fix it after they've failed or they're too far in over their heads. We did the advising model. We were able to, we're both mic'd up right now. That's why when I keep getting closer to her, it gets itchy, scratchy. So sorry, I'm kind of hanging over. Tammy's like, why are you hanging like at my head? That's why. We got the career and academic communities that were approved by cabinet and then implemented college-wide, so we started organizing that way. We had the orientation proposal approved for implementation, supplemental instruction proposal approved for implementation. And this is when we said the I-teams have completed their work. And as we move into the next slide, I think you'll see why. So we knew, right, that these implementation teams, which were probably, it's a cute name, but it wasn't really implementing, it was developing the plan for implementing, right? And so once those proposals got done, the work needed to move to the people who are doing the work. right? So we needed to transition that to a place where those in student life and advising were working on the initiatives. So by year 3, we have a lot more green, right? So we have our enrollment checklist, and our mandatory student orientation is now up and going. We're on semester 2 of that already. Our on-time registration process was implemented this past spring. Advising has done a ton of work. Advising you can't even really see the similarities anymore. We've dropped the drop in appointments. We've moved to appointment-based. Students are assigned their caseload advisor, and we're getting better at that. Advisors and faculty are talking together more now than we've ever seen before, which is fantastic. Our supplemental instruction rolled out in our Gateway Math courses. We finalized our maps. We got our Title III grant. That was pretty exciting. We got some additional resources and staff to continue to work on that. We established a Student Success Council. We really began to work with the assessment metrics. So what are our KPIs? What are our key performance indicators as a college and for this work? So each of the teams are really working on that and developing that. And our CAC liaisons were selected, and now you're here. Yay! So that's what today is all about, is having that group ready to go, and we're excited about what you'll see. So, like I said, those past 3 years, many of you have been involved in all 3 of them, and it feels like, whew, that's a lot of work. But really, in some ways, our work is just starting. Right? Now we've built the pathways, we have the initiatives, we have people assigned to the roles, we have guiding principles, we know what key performance indicators we're looking for, and now we got to start doing the work. And we're going to see where it fits and where it doesn't, where we need to add more, where we need to take away, where we need to maybe shift our approach a little bit. So there's a lot of work to come, and that's where we're really kicking off. Our CACs are here in structure, but you're just here now in people. So what are those really going to be? How are students going to interact with the CAC? How are we going to do that? That's what we're here to kick off today. And thank you. So this is one of my favorite. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So we need to continue to work together. We need to continue to push where initiatives are working or not working. We need to continue to have conversations, hard conversations together. But I think as we do that, we're going to go and continue to build an experience that's really fantastic for our students. So thank you for all of the work up to this point. I'd like to now introduce Dr. Kay McClenney, who I'm so thankful is here today. So I know that I tend to be long-winded, so I tried to put together a really succinct introduction for Dr. McClenney, and so I would like all of you to try that at break. Just Google her real quick and see if you can do a brief introduction. A brief introduction will not reflect at all her outstanding career and the many contributions to our field, but I'll do my best to give you a flavor of who Dr. McClenney is. She consults nationally with community colleges, state systems, national and state organizations, and foundations. She is a founding director and senior associate of the Center for Community College Student Engagement, the CESI that we've all talked about and looked at as an institution. And in many ways, the CESI survey started our work with the advising model, where we started to identify this as an area where we wanted to invest in. She's a leadership coach for Achieving the Dream and has led a number of national and state-based initiatives, including work as co-director for the Student Success by the Numbers class, the California Leadership Alliance for Student Success, and the National Bridges to Opportunity Initiative. She also previously served for 10 years as Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Education Commission of the States, and she is currently the Senior Advisor to the President and CEO of AACC, the American Association of Community Colleges. She has served as a member of the Board of Directors of the AACC and the Executive Board of the American Association of Women in Community Colleges. She received the 2002 PBS O'Brien Prize for contributions to teaching and learning in America, the 2009 Mildred Bulpitt Woman of the Year Award from the American Association of Women in Community Colleges, the 2009 International Leadership Award from NIZAD, and the 2011 National Leadership Award from AACC. See, it's a lot, and that's just like a handful. She is co-chair of the AACC's 21st Century Commission to the Future of Community Colleges, and importantly, Dr. McClenney has been described as a force in promoting diversity and equity, last year earning the Diversity Champions Award. She is known to regularly surface the issues around structural racism and disproportionate outcomes for students. Dr. McClenney earned her PhD in Educational Administration for the Community College Leadership Program at the University of Texas at Austin, and her previous degrees are a BA from Trinity University and an MA in Psychology from Texas Christian University. I see Dr. McClenney also as a part of our FRCC family. She was a guiding force behind our work at the AACC Pathways Institute and helping us build the vision of our continued work here today. Additionally, she helped us kick off the work in student affairs in March 2 years ago, and she inspires me in that she never forgets to remind us of the reason behind the work, and that's our students. We owe it to them to be better. Dr. McClenney is serious about her work, and if you're not sure, then let me point out that she was in Italy until the end of last month, like a few days ago, and then unfortunately contracted pneumonia. So any coughing we will excuse and support. Any sitting down or water breaks we will absolutely understand. And then she sent Andrea and I, so she had all that going on, she sent Andrea and I a message, don't panic. And I was thinking, you get to panic, we don't get to panic. But she was here, and I'm just so grateful for her being willing to come and join us today. So please help me in welcoming her.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, they're a difficult group, aren't they? So what if it's a Monday in June, right? I want to thank you for having me here. I am really impressed. I'm impressed, along with Jana, at the presence and the spirit in the room on a Monday morning in June. I am incredibly excited for a whole lot of reasons about being here. One is the mix of people in this room. It is exactly what needs to happen. It is exactly what is going to make this work come alive for your students. I'm excited as I've had the opportunity to watch the work of Front Range Community College through the AACC Institutes and through being on your campus, reading about, hearing about your work. I'm excited about where you are and the progress you've made. How many of you were at the very first institute for AACC? At that institute, I got up in front of the room and I talked about the work. And Jenna's right, we invited colleges. They were selected because we thought they were the ones that had the best chance of being successful with very difficult, challenging work under a tight, demanding timeline. And so when I finished my presentation about what is involved in Guided Pathways work, I said, look, folks, if you are not now hyperventilating, then it's because I haven't done my job. It's because I haven't been clear enough about just how much work, how much transformation, how much change, how much collaboration, how much talk is going to be required in the college. I am happy to say that the Front Range Community College people really got that. They really got that and came back and pulled back and said, okay, what is it going to take in order for us as this college, who we are, to do this work for our students. I also think you're at the point where some of the tedium, there's a lot of tedium in doing all those maps. Maps by May, that was tough. There is some really exciting, ingenious, creative, generative work that you get to do now as you're building out these career and academic learning communities. And so I'm happy to get to talk with you about that. Truth is, there's a whole lot to talk about and not a whole lot of time. What I want to do first is start with a tiny reprise on what it is by way of experience and evidence that got us here. Jana did a great job of doing a lot of that for us this morning, and so I can be quick. Then we're going to talk again. Some of this is reprise for some of you, some of it's newer to others, about the Pathways model, why we're doing it, but what the shifts are from our more traditional ways of educating students to the ways toward which we're moving And we're certainly going to talk about the meta-major work, and you don't get out of a room with me without talking about the equity implications. Now, unfortunately, this interaction is going to be punctuated by my coughing. I am not hazardous to your health. Think of it as me getting better. So I spent 3 weeks in France and Italy in the last 3 days with pneumonia. If I were to complain, I'd be a bad person. So we're just going to get through it, okay? We are going to have time at the end for a discussion, but along the way, I'm sort of a student engagement geek. And so if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you want to say, hey, hold on a minute, please do that so that we can be sure that we are with the people in the room. Ready, set, go. Quick reiteration, the world did not begin with guided pathways. Most community colleges in this country have been doing a world of work over at least a decade and a half, focused on student success, understanding that access by itself is an empty promise. And so we are building on that work. We are taking the best of what we know from that work and doing what we hadn't done as well, and I am as much a part of this as anyone. What we had never done with all these discrete initiatives was to integrate them into a structured, coherent experience for students and bring them to scale so that all students who needed to benefit from them actually did. So that work with AACC originated really with the 2012 21st Century Commission on the Future of Community Colleges, which I co-chaired. A bunch of smart people in a room in and out of higher education, corporate, university, think tank folks, and we looked at a lot of data, and we looked at a lot of data we didn't like about what were the directions that our country, that our communities are going, and this is just one example of that. The middle class is shrinking. The average per capita family income is shrinking in America, and that a child born poor in America is more likely than ever before to stay poor throughout his or her lifetime. And what the commission said was, this is tough, and if those trends in the country are going to be reversed, then a lot of the heavy lifting for that reversal is going to occur in the nation's community colleges. Anybody in here believe that? And then we said, but if community colleges are really going to be the powerful answer to that reversal, then we are going to have to dramatically rethink and redesign the way we educate our students, because the outcomes we're getting are not yet good enough. The equity is not yet what it needs to be. And so that led to a commitment on the part of AACC to really attend again and in a more focused way to this reality that continues, that educational attainment in this country and in the world for that matter is directly related to a person's prospects. And if you believe that the American dream is defined as that sort of intergenerational compact by which we say that each of our subsequent generations will be better off than the previous one, and we mean better off certainly in terms of economic prosperity, but also in terms of health and the ability to care for the health and educational needs of a family and to be part of a community and a vibrant democracy, then we got work to do. And so the report of the commission is what set AACC off on this track, but in the process we gathered together our friends and our colleagues, both among the community colleges around the country, but also 7 other national organizations that have been incredible collaborators, the authors of the book on redesigning America's community colleges, and CESI and Aspen Institute, and Jobs for the Future, and Public Agenda, and a whole bunch of folks that have really been contributors. What drives us and what helps us monitor where we are? So here's your little data quiz for the day. Do you all know the answer to this question? It's a question I take with me wherever I go. Most colleges don't know the answer to this question. Do you know? Mostly we don't count. So I have arm wrestled a number of college presidents and IR people into finding the answer to this question. It is available to us. And if I were to give you an average, it would be somewhere around 17, 18%. These are the students who make it through all that stuff we put them through. You know, the admissions process and the assessment and the registration and the blah and the financial aid especially. And they're there on census date and they never earn a credit. Okay, that's a problem. This one turns out to be a new gold standard for student progress and success in community college based on the data, the things that we are learning together around the country. What percent of our entering college students have completed college level English and math by the end of their first year? Do you understand what a major shift that is? From about 20, 25 years of sorting most of our students out of college and into a series of standalone sequences of developmental education courses, from which most of them never emerge. This is huge. And what we are finding is that not only is it possible, but that this data is highly predictive of a student's future progress, success, graduation, completion of goals. I know you know these data because we require you to collect it for the Pathways Project. What percent of your students, advisors, and advising teams complete a full program academic plan by the end of their first semester? This is one you're going to want to watch, because it's a big part of the work that can occur within the meta majors, that can occur beginning with the application and orientation process, can be fleshed out during that first term as students further explore their options. But this is key. Davis Jenkins wrote that article a number of years ago that was part of the jumpstart for this work called Get With the Program. What it says is the sooner we can get students connected with the subject matter of a college program, the more likely they are to stay with us. It's here's my technical term, sticky. And here's another one of those predictors. We used to postpone, both for reasons of developmental education. And if I ever hear this from you again, I will sentence you to summer camp with Davis Jenkins. The phrase that we don't want to hear is get your general eds out of the way. Get your core courses out of the way. First of all, I never liked that much out of the way. It's a little devaluing. But we also know that getting students into their meta major, their career and academic community, the subject matter that makes them have purpose, is another one of those highly sticky experiences. And so we're saying we need to have students with plans that have them in at least one course in their program of study in their first term and at least 3 in their first year. You with me so far? Big difference from past practice. Okay, some of you in the room know the answer to this question. What is the average, median, I don't care, number of college level credits earned by an associate degree graduate from Front Range Community College? I'm not talking about developmental education credits here. I'm talking about college level credits earned. Let's hear it. 45, 65. Okay, who's right? Who knows what it actually is? All right, Andy.
70 to 72.
70 to 72, which, by the way, is unacceptable, but it's a whole lot better than what we see in a lot of other places. And it shows some of the kinds of work that you've already done at Front Range. In Texas, the average in the state is 93 across the 60 community college districts. At Austin Community College, where I am and Achieving the Dream coach, it's 104. That's what they said. And they're right. Let me just say this to you, that there is nothing okay. There is no argument you can make to me that will convince me that that many credits for a 60-credit degree is okay. It is student time, opportunity cost, money, lost wages. It is taxpayer time, money. It is parent investment. It is all of those things. And it's lost Pell Grant eligibility for those students. And so if I had to use one piece of data to say why should we be creating more structured, clearer pathways for students, this would be it. All right, so what got us here? What got us here is that, yes. Oh, good, a question, please.
What were those percentages? You didn't say the numbers.
I'm sorry?
On the last slide, you didn't say the numbers on the answer. Like, what were the percentages?
Average number of college level credits earned. Is that the one you're talking about?
So the first one you said.
Oh no, I'm asking you this for your college because obviously these vary. But what we are seeing, let me just give you an example. On this one, for example, here we have an institute coming up in June where we have presidents and faculty from 2 colleges that have gone to scale on co-requisite instruction for both English and math, and they have gone from 16% of their students completing college level math and English in the first year to 74%, and they did that in 1 year. In fact, in a small, poor college in Texas, they did it in 1 semester. So this is part of our message here, and it is, we've learned a lot, and we need to do more of what we now know about what helps our students achieve. So it becomes a target for any college to look at what its baseline is, and then to continue to monitor that early indicator over time. You had a question?
The third one now.
Yeah?
What percent of students complete a full program activity plan by the end of their first semester? When you say complete,
Yeah.
you mean like fill out a plan? Or, I'm an advisor, so
Yeah.
I'm wondering what that language means.
Okay, I do mean fill out a plan. There are paper ways of doing that, and increasingly there is excellent technology to support doing it. We don't want to buy the technology before we know what the process is that the advisors are going to be using. But the big difference here is full program. Students, I've done hundreds of student focus groups, and they mostly tell us that the advising they get is, okay, let's do your course schedule for this semester. And they also tell us that's the least important thing that they need from the advising process, but that's what we have made time and capacity to do in the past. Full program academic plan from where I am to completion of my goals. And then it gets monitored. And then if students diverge from it, guess what happens? They get to see an advisor to talk about it, to say, hey, we noticed you're diverging from your plan. Let's talk about what's going on there. Okay. Anyone else? This is great. Okay. Community colleges, including this one, are brilliant at creating those discrete, usually boutique level strategies. They're funded by Title III, Title V, every title you can think of. They're funded by the state, they're funded by the system, they're funded by local, homegrown, and foundation things. And the good news is that some of them, in fact, quite a few of them, produce good results for a few students. They don't scale, they don't get integrated, and they do not move the needle on the big measures of completion and transfer and equity. And so where that brings us, according to the organizational development people, is that, we're all perfectly designed to get the results we're currently getting. Every course, every program, every service, every college. And so if you're not entirely happy with those results, it means you need to rethink the design. It doesn't mean you have lazy, evil people working. It means there's something wrong with the way the experience is designed. This one comes from Alcoholics Anonymous. We've learned a lot in the last few years from behavioral economics and decision theory that inform our work on guided pathways. It's not about removing choice from students. It's about helping them make better choices. It's about helping them make informed choices. It's about helping them identify decision points. And what we know physiologically is that when human beings are assaulted by too much information and no ways to sort through it and navigate it, that what happens is that the part of the brain responsible for making good decisions literally leaves the premises. And therefore, the decisions that get made come out of the wrong side of the brain. They're emotional, or it's what my sister did, or my aunt, or I default and don't decide. And this is the implication. Okay. Cognitive science adds to the conclusions there that we all benefit when we have goals and we know what the steps are towards achieving those goals. And I've got to tell you, I have heard hundreds of students talk about that. That I want to know what is the pathway, what is the highway, what is the map that is going to take me from where I am to that better and different place that I want to be 2 or 3 or 5 or 8 years from now. There's some things we've learned from the experience of all of these reform initiatives. One is that it's hard to scale. Because most of us are pretty comfortable doing what we're doing, so we have groups of champions who will do cool stuff until they flame out or the grant goes away. We're really good at starting stuff, and most community college people can't name anything they've stopped doing in the last 5 years. I see, okay, all right. We have learned, and I'm going to say this again and again, and it's why this is important, why what Janice said to you is important. We never get through with the work of talking with our colleagues, of engaging people in discussion, and also in the actual doing of the work. There's not a different way to get this done and get it done well. And I think even some of our best colleges initially underestimated the extent to which you have to be systematic and continuous and genuine about the ways we engage our colleagues. It's hard to let go of stuff that we have traditionally done, the courses, some of them that we love to teach, or the ways that we used to love to advise, and that sort of thing. And one of the things we've learned is that we have to allow for the reality that there is loss and there is grief involved in this work. And to not recognize that, not respect it, is a mistake. You've had Rob Johnstone here, so you've heard about demystifying pathways and some of the concerns that are legitimate and need to be raised and respected on the table. So, and this last part is from Kay McClenney, from longer than I would like to acknowledge, of being a student and a researcher on the educational experience of community college students, both quantitative and qualitative research. And this is one of the things that I want to say. There is nothing more important to student retention and persistence in your college than creating connections with and for that students. And every one of you in this room has a role in doing that. Everyone on every one of your campuses has a role in doing that. And the cool news here is, you know how much it costs to create a culture of connection? It's like zip, zero, nada. It costs a decision to be that place. And some intentionality as we design, for example, our career and academic communities. So we'll talk some more about how we intentionally connect with students. I did a decade and a half of research at the University of Texas on community college students, and the most profound overall lesson that I came away from that with is this, and it is the persistent and sizable gap that exists in nearly every college between the cool services and programs that colleges provide, operative word, provide, as contrasted with what students actually experience. I see you nodding your heads. And so that is a really compelling notion behind the guided pathways work, behind the way we think about what is the potential of the CACs. Am I saying that right? And we're going to talk some more about it. And I want you to think about this every time you're thinking about orientation or your student success course or your supplemental instruction or your whatever it is that you are putting together that's cool for students. How are you going to make sure that it becomes an inescapable part of their experience? And this is me. There's a college in Kentucky that finally gave me the t-shirt. And I know this because students tell us this. Students are a whole lot like human beings. Okay, so we're going to go now. Some of you have met James, but I'm going to show you James again. I take students with me wherever I go, and I'm going to show you in a minute where you can find a whole bunch of new videos, and you may want to do your own. But while I was at SESI, we did longitudinal focus groups where we were able to gather a group of students and do focus groups with them during registration, during the third week of class, again in November, then in January, and then at the end of their first academic year. So notice the timestamps at the top of this video.
I'd like to.
Oops. We need volume.
Scared when I try to do technology.
Yeah, me too. It scares me also. Okay. All right, now we're going to watch the
I like to listen in and learn new things, and I know that's what college is all about. You know, they teach me stuff high school won't, and I'm all about learning new things. I love education, so I have to admit I was nervous too, like any incoming freshman. But you know, it's just you just got to see it as just another day at school. So like, you just adapt to it. I mean, I did. It's easy. It's just a lot of homework. I don't like homework. I mean, school's all right, I like it, but it's just, it's not for everybody. And, I guess I'm just one of those people that it's not for. Maybe sometime later on in life, I'll pick it back up again, but, just, it is what it is.
And then he dropped out. And then we followed him, found him, did an individual interview with him. So what do you think happened there?
Got behind, he didn't make the connections.
That's number one. He didn't make the connections. And there's one other really powerful thing that he told us.
He wasn't inspired.
He didn't find his purpose. That's you're on the thing there. He didn't get connected to the campus and the people, but he also didn't get connected to purpose. That would be the drawing power that keeps you coming back on Monday, and that sort of thing. And so I want you to know that James took all the responsibility for this. His words were, "It's all on me." I don't believe that, and that is why I do this work. Okay, so also from focus groups, advisors, I'm interested in knowing what you think about this list, but this is what students tell us are the questions that they have when they show up. One of the most compelling and the one that they're least likely to talk about is the first one. Because so many of our students have been told already a whole lot of different times in a lot of different languages that they don't belong here, that they're not college material, that they're never going to make it. What do you think about those questions? And tellingly, whose job is it to make sure that all of your entering students get the answers to all of these questions? Okay, if it's everybody's job, is it nobody's job? We just need to get clear about this, right? At what point in the onboarding, advising, early career and academic community experience are students going to get answers to the questions that are compelling for them in their lives? I'm not going to read this to you because Jenna already did. And you have access to it at any point. And she showed you, once again, these essential practices that have been the framework for the guided pathways work, but looked at from the student perspective. That is the elaboration of that work. I know, it's just awful, isn't it? But it's what you've been doing. This is the work that is involved in the design, implementation, and evaluation of guided pathways. That chart was put together by 10 national organizations that are involved in this work. And here's the good news. There is a new resource for you at pathwaysresources.org. AACC just launched it in April. It is an all partners resource. All of our partners have contributed to it. And you can go there and find not everything ever written or said, but the best. It's curated, the most seminal, important resources, and a lot of videos, short ones, from presidents, practitioners. Actually, Andy Dorsey is on there, and if you go to the search function, you can find out what he said. So I just want to commend this to you. When you're looking at a particular issue or want to know what's being done around a particular thing, there are examples of college websites. There are examples of other things. And we have 150 new student videos from Pathways colleges that are going to be posted in the next few weeks. So you can hear them talking about their advising experience, their meta-major experience, and so on. So I commend that to you. All right. So we need to go back here. I think that this is just a one slide way of saying that these are core. These are core changes that are elementary in the guided pathways work. And you heard Jana giving an update on an awful lot of these things as she spoke earlier this morning. We're going to spend a little bit more time talking about integrating experiential and co-curricular work into pathways, integrating academic support inescapably into those meta majors, and so on. But this pretty much says this is what we're going to be doing. This is what students are going to be experiencing. All right, let's talk about those meta majors and why they're important. And I think a lot of colleges have come to that reflection, that insight as they've gotten into the work, as Jana talked about. And the more we do this work, the more we understand that it's important for colleges to really tackle this early in the process, because it does become an important organizing framework. But I will tell you that now, as colleges are doing their implementation, one of the things we're hearing is that it's becoming a very powerful student recruitment tool. It is a way in for students to have that choice architecture that says, hey, I'm kind of interested in STEM, or hey, I think I'm interested in bioscience or health careers or arts, humanities, design, something in design. And it helps them get into the curriculum and then further explore what is behind. How many of those do you have? 6, 8? 6. Good number. Let me talk about this for a moment. Some people worry about 18-year-olds knowing what they want to do, and there's reason to worry about that. But what we're learning from the data is that students are more likely to change their minds within a meta major than across meta majors, and what the CACs will help you do as you think in particular about the first semester and the development of that full program academic plan is to help students say, if they're in that business area and they come in saying, I'm going to be an accountant, and what they learn is that they hate accounting but they love marketing. That's a good outcome. If they come in and they are in health careers and discover that they actually don't like blood, and so radiology's looking really good. Those kinds of informed things, we used to delay that career exploration stuff until the very end. You know, we'd have career services offices that were at the end of students' experiences helping to do the job placement. And we are front-end loading that now so that students can make better, more informed choices about the kind of pathway that is going to suit them and what the opportunities are at the end of that pathway for transfer, for jobs, for careers, for advancement economically, and so on. I will say that many of our colleges, as they have developed their meta majors and identified the programs within them, have then gone to work on designing a common first semester course schedule. So why would we do that? Why would we think it was important to design a common first semester course schedule for students within a given career and academic community? There are really two reasons. Yes, they can switch without losing credits. Absolutely. So it gives them that time to be developing their plan, doing career exploration, meeting faculty, hearing about things in their student success course, whatever. All right, so that's one reason. What's the other one? It creates a cohort. Create a cohort at every opportunity is the rule for student engagement and success. And if you're intentional about it, then having that commonality really does begin to convert, and this is what we're going to focus on, convert a career and academic community from a list of things on paper or on a website to an active, vital, large-scale learning community. That's where we want to head. Yes?
Can you talk about colleges that are doing a good job with that, helping students define their purpose? And obviously the meta majors do part of that, but it seems like there's other ways of helping students think about careers, either before they start or in their first few advising meetings.
Yeah, I would say Indian River is one of the places that's doing good work there. St. Petersburg, Jackson in Michigan, and I'll have to think. Beyond that, it's a good question. Some of the websites are really fabulous and will take students, you know, from the meta major to the list of programs, and then they're populated by live data from Burning Glass or other sources that says, and here's the number of jobs available in your local area, and here are the salaries at entry and median level at each level of educational attainment with a certificate, an associate, a baccalaureate degree, and so on. And it live updates so that you don't have little squirrels in a back room somewhere doing that every 20 minutes. So, two really powerful reasons to think about how you create that experience for entering students in a career and academic community during that first term. This is a big topic. It's the topic for the Institute we're doing in Baltimore in June. That's this month, good God. And part of it is about how we get out of the pre-collegiate ghetto and get students into the CACs at the earliest possible moment by contextualizing the academic skill building within their meta major. And doing that in two ways. One of the ways is by default placement into college level courses with appropriate support. The other is for the percentage of students, maybe 25%, that aren't going to thrive in college level courses, then doing the accelerated, intensive, but doing those also in a way that makes them feel a part of the academic community into which they are entering. Am I making sense? Okay. All right. Contextualizing general education is also something that is going on, that we have colleges that are either teaching courses that are specific for STEM or for business or that sort of thing, or we have colleges where the faculty are creating data banks of assignments that help students to connect their history course or their economics course or whatever it is they're taking to the subject matter that they are part of in their career and academic community. So different colleges do this in different ways. It depends on your enrollment patterns. It depends on your faculty preferences. But it's one of the kinds of things that I think that these student success councils that you're putting together around the CACs are going to have some fun. It doesn't have to look alike for every meta major, because there are discipline appropriate distinctions that might be made, right? Okay. And there's this one, promoting student engagement and community, which we've already begun to talk about, but we're going to talk about some more. Before I do that, the meta major question, the question about the value, the function, why are we doing these career and academic communities anyway? Questions, comments about that at all? Is it making sense to you? I see a lot of heads nodding. Okay. All right. We'll come back to the meta majors, but I want to do that quick swing through the shifts that we're making from the way we have typically done our work to the directions in which we're moving, or to which you have already moved, as Jana illustrated this morning. So we've already said, usually the job and transfer support has come at the end of the process. It now comes throughout the process. Students often need to make early decisions about where they want to transfer, because that will affect what courses they should take, based on what is not just transferable but applicable to the major at the institution. Already mentioned, we've moved from doing the current academic schedule to doing the full program plan. We have moved from focusing on single high stakes placement test scores to focus on a multiple measures assessment. Are you all doing that? What are you using to assess students as they enter?
We have a placement test, but we have high school transcripts.
Mm-hmm.
SATs.
Okay. I want to commend to you a paper recently written by John Hetz at Ed Results Partnership, HETTS, in California, who has done an extensive analysis of the predictive power of high school grade point average as compared with any of the standardized placement tests. No contest, people. The charts in that report are just astonishing. They'll take your breath away. Yes? He is at Education Results Partnership in California. And I can get you a link to that work if somebody will remind me. Colorado, of course, is a complete College America state. You have a statewide expectations about co-requisite academic support, and the results that we are seeing are beginning to be very impressive. By the way, I forgot to say something as I was introducing myself this morning. I bring you greetings from Dr. Byron McClenney, who sends those greetings from Florida, where he is a leadership coach at Valencia College today. And he's also newly the chair of the State Board for Community College System in Colorado. So he told me to tell you hi. We have moved from an emphasis solely on support for student success in algebra and English comp, those gateway courses that have been the end trail for remediation. But we all now also understand that we cannot assume, this is really important in this co-requisite model, we cannot assume that because we've helped students successfully complete college level English and math, that they're going to successfully complete anatomy and physiology and accounting and biology and intro to economics. we still need to be providing them with wraparound support, with embedded academic support that is discipline appropriate within the career and academic communities. Nikki Edgecombe from the Community College Research Center at Teachers College Columbia just published in April an article that makes this point. Let's not say that we have fixed students through a co-rec English and math model and fail to recognize that for the student population that we are attempting to serve, we need to continue to think about what's the discipline appropriate support that needs to be a part of the syllabus. We'll talk about that. So we're having a little conversation, are we, about dual and concurrent enrollment, are we? We need to be. Across the country, high school dual enrollment is becoming an increasingly important source of enrollment for community colleges, and it's also the place where students begin to collect excess credits. And so there, as well as in our own bailiwick, we have to be making the switch from enrolling students in random courses to enrolling students in programs that have purpose and direction so that their dual credit adds up to something important. You with me? This is not always easy. There are counter incentives at work in the K-12 system, but we're thinking about students here. We might also think about public money, but we need to think about students. All right, student onboarding. Anything there that looks like foreign language to you? Yes?
Not a foreign language, but can you share any more about what's going on in that concurrent enrollment frame, how we may start to look at designing it well?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you that I think the place that's doing the best job of it right now, because they have to, is the state of Texas, because their legislature, being what it is, passed a law that creates within high schools what they call endorsement areas, and there are 5 of them, and they would match up pretty well with your 6 career and academic communities. Without the community colleges in Texas, that law could very well devolve into something that looks a whole lot like 1950 style tracking. With community colleges reaching back and talking with students about, if you choose this endorsement area in high school, we can connect you seamlessly into this meta major and this set of program options in the community college. The community colleges are going to save Texas from itself. That's not an easy job either, I gotta tell you. I know you wouldn't. So we have numbers of colleges that are realizing, in California this is a big issue too because of the enrollment patterns, and so they too are reaching back and trying to figure out how to begin earlier with the career exploration work, the student success work, the FAFSA work, and so on, so that students who begin in dual and concurrent enrollment aren't just taking courses. It's, let's call it enriched dual enrollment, and there's a lot of negotiation that has to go into those arrangements. Other questions? Okay, advisors. I'll be interested to know how well this list matches up with your current thinking, because there's not one right way of doing this. So, this is what we used to do. All right, so we're not going to do that anymore. We are going to listen to this student, however, or there are 2 or 3 students in here.
I think it should be mandatory that every student has an advisor, because I thought every student saw one until coming into here and hearing everyone's responses. So I think it would be good if everyone had somebody they could talk to that is school related and can help you in your personal and your educational life.
When new students first come in, I think they could have like a mandatory one-on-one sit-down with the counselors to really discuss in detail their degree plan and stuff. That's to me. So.
I think that's so important, because the schools I'm looking into now to transfer to, I have to see what classes I need to take to get to where I need to go. And I believe for me anyways, if I didn't sit down and take that time what's the point? I'd be taking classes that would be irrelevant. I wouldn't use any of the credits. It's always good to learn, but when we have a goal, it's like, what progress am I making toward that goal?
Students are really pretty smart about what it is that they need, and we need to keep listening systematically. This is one of the ways that your student success councils organized around those meta majors can monitor
the progress you're making and how well it's working for students. There's what we think, as we already know, and there's what they experience, and those things are not always the same thing. All right. So we've done the info dump, and now we know that we need to use orientation for what students need to know to be ready for their first day of class. And then we need to think about how to design that first semester, whether it's a student success course or it's a first year experience or it's whatever it is you call it, to build the learning community, to build relationships between the advisors that are embedded in those CACs with faculty and students in the groups, and to provide the just-in-time support. This is one of the hugest shifts in this whole piece of work. We're making a shift from scheduling the courses faculty want to teach when they want to teach them to scheduling the courses that students need to take when they need to take them. I have a student on video that I didn't bring with me who said, just because they require it doesn't mean they actually offer it. I met a young woman, not so young actually, she was a black woman and a Marine, a pretty tough cookie in the president's office at Lansing Community College recently, and she was raising holy hell because she said, you people told me this was a 2-year program. And my husband and I arranged our family and our finances and my ability to not be earning income and that sort of thing for a 2-year program. And now you're telling me that the last course I need I can't take until a year from now. That's the difference. And by the way, they fixed it. but you can't do it on a one-by-one person with black female Marines. Davis Jenkins wants us to move from thinking about full-time versus part-time students. We need maps for both. They need individualized maps. But the question is, are they on plan or off plan? You see the distinction we're talking about there? By the way, we also need to be using all of our ingenuity to get more part-time students who can take more credits to take more credits, and to take credits in the summer. And we have colleges that are coming up with all kinds of creative ways of incentivizing year-round enrollment so that students get closer to an on-time completion. Why? You want to know the percentage of part-time students who ever actually complete nationally? Guess. 17%. So you take community colleges having the huge percentages of part-time students that we do, and what we like to say is, well, we're going to serve them and we'll be good to them and we'll be nice, and eventually they'll finish. Well, no, they don't. And so we've got to be cognizant of that as we work on this. I'm going to say something here. I know you've added advisors, and that's a good thing. A lot of our colleges have added advisors. There is probably no bigger impact of guided pathways than the way we think about the advising and the importance of advising and continuous advising, but we have to think about it more broadly than just more bodies. We have to think about advising capacity, not just advisors, but advising. And what does that mean? It means different things in different colleges. It can mean more bodies, but we have to know what they're for and how they're embedded and how they're prepared. It also can mean that we repurpose, and a lot of our colleges have done this, moved some positions from other things they were doing into advisor capacity. I believe you've done some of that. It can mean that we think about what different people do best. It's kind of triage. What do professional advisors do best? What do faculty do best in terms of talking with students about their transfer and their job opportunities? What can student advisors do? They're really good at stuff about how you get stuff done around here and where to find resources and how to get connected. So peer advising, another example. And finally, and importantly, group advising within the context of a career and academic community has multiple benefits, which are they get advising. Some students will ask questions in a group that other students won't ask, but they are also building relationships. with other students, with advisors, with faculty that are brought in and that sort of thing. And there are, of course, economies associated with that. So again, that's an ingenuity thing as you design the further working out of your career and academic communities about which approach, which way of serving students works best for which functions, which help that they need. And the notion of assigning, embedding advisors in the meta majors is hugely important. We've been advocating that from the beginning because it makes it a humanly possible task. No advisor can really know everything about every program and every student, but advisors can know the students and the programs and the faculty within a given meta major and be centrally involved in promoting the student experiences. And students get to see the same person, which they love. All right, so anybody want to say we're not doing that, we hate that, or we're doing something different? No? I see you smiling. Okay, we'll come back. I'm going to be kind of quick on these next two slides because there are things that I want us to spend more time on, and you've been through the mapping process. And have we gotten to identifying what's the right math for the right programs? Okay. Big one. So there was that talk about how we have most of our graduates are in short-term certificates. Here's something that we're learning from the most recent research on this, and it is that colleges tend to be really proud of stackable credentials and that sort of thing, and so they build stacks, and students don't claim them. And so, again, that gap between what we provide and what they experience can be, I think, partially addressed through the full program plan. You can find some places, some of the websites online where they're very explicit about you take these courses and at this point you get this certificate and then there are these 3 more courses and then there's this, that make it clear to the student that that first certificate is not the end point, but is an important milestone. So, lots of different ways there that we've been working on rethinking programs. That final pillar in the model is ensuring that learning occurs. We can have great program maps and even great advising, and if there's not high quality teaching and learning going on in the classrooms and outside them, then we did the work from nothing. And so here I want to pause. One of the exciting places where you are now is the understanding that we have those program maps that are about our formal courses, and that we have the opportunity, faculty working with student life people now, to align discipline-appropriate co-curricular learning with those meta majors and the programs within them. This is really cool stuff, and it is powerful. Fact: 86% of community college students never, ever, ever participate in college-sponsored co-curricular activities. Another fact is that when they do, it's really good for them. So thinking about how to embed that intentionally in the experience. Putting the debate club within the political science program, or putting Phi Theta Kappa subchapters within each of the learning communities, or all of the different kinds of things that you can think of, including service learning opportunities across those meta majors. They are huge opportunities and very powerful for students. We have always operated on a referral model, except in programs like TRIO. We've said, we're going to refer students when they need help, refer. And you know what? It doesn't work. And so the students that get the support, by and large, are the ones who least need the support. And so that is why, and this comes out of the students don't do optional piece, that is why we are saying we need to think about what are, in each of these career and academic communities, the discipline-appropriate forms of academic support that we know our students are going to need. So it could be supplemental instruction, could be required time in a lab of several different sorts. It could be time in the tutoring center. It could be required study groups outside of class. You know what all of those things are? All of those things are different ways of packaging time on task. And it turns out there's a whole lot of research that says that's good for college students, and there's no research that says that it ever hurt a single college student. And so I say this, and faculty say to me, yeah, but we can't require our students to do that because our students are busy. You know, they have all these challenges. And I say, yes, you can, and the way you do it is a thing called a syllabus. You know what a syllabus is? It is entirely about prescribing time on task. Think about it. You have to read this, you have to write this, you have to do this project, you have to do this research. We need to think about how wisely we are designing the syllabus that is going to be most likely to serve the success of our students. And we can do that within the context of our disciplines, of our career and academic communities. Who wants to argue with me? Does this sound like fun? This is my idea of a good time. I mean, this work that you have lying ahead of you, my idea of a good time. All right, and so there's this, which comes very much out of this SE work, to another creative, generative task, and that is how can the faculty and advisors in these teams around these meta majors say, how are we going to ensure that there are applied learning, experiential learning opportunities for our students throughout their pathways? Because that's the single most powerful teaching strategy we can use with community college students. And you can do it in history, and you can do it in philosophy just as you can do it in nursing, in welding. A little ingenuity will be a benefit here. Okay. And here's why. Note the physical appearance of these young men.
I just want to tell them, I don't know how to do this. I need help.
Some of it could be just because of pride.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what most of it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you just sit there and say, oh, I don't need help.
I can do this.
I can do this. And you get home and you're just confused. I'm like, man, I should have went. I mean, it's worth it. That's what I had to do.
Okay, you get the general idea. One of the major findings of a study, multi-year study we did on men of color in community colleges is that we can offer it and they are not going. And what they say to us is, I've gotten all these messages throughout high school, throughout my life that tell me how inferior I am and how I'm not going to make it in college. And so why would I self-identify as deficient? So what we do is we design and embed academic support in ways that say to people, this is what it means to go to college at Front Range Community College. This is the way we do college here. This is what happens because we know it's what's important for you to be successful, for all of our students to be successful. You got that? Okay, I think you have illustrated by your presence in this room that there are really big differences in what we're calling on ourselves to do as institutions. I wrote an article, I think in 2012 or 13, in the Community College Journal about the movement toward pathways and talked about the barriers we need to break down. Virtually all of them, the ones between instruction and student services, the ones between credit and non-credit, between remedial and college level, between arts and sciences and career and technical education. All of those things need to go away because they're arcane and they keep us from serving our students well. But so these shifts in the way we work together, you are now at that point where a number of our colleges are figuring out, now that we have these maps and we have these things, how are we going to organize ourselves for the collaborative effort that's going to be required to implement and sustain and improve? Because as Jana said, this is version 1.0. And as soon as you're into 1.0, you're already thinking about together what 2.0 and the others need to be. So here are those shifts. We like to call this exploration. But typically, the student patterns say it's aimless wandering around the curriculum. Students wander into the door, they wander around the curriculum, they wander out of the college, and then they wonder why they came. The most common outcome in American higher education, community college and university, is accumulation of credits and debt and no credential. We're going to fix that. Here we go again. I put that one up there because it's big. Multidimensional collaboration and cross-functional teams. I think this room is populated by those things, which was so exciting to me when I heard you describing, Jana, the people who are in this room together today. It's the only way we can get the work done, and it turns out that it has enormous rewards associated with it. And again, it goes to a major shift in higher education culture. We attract people who like to be lonely and autonomous. And my classroom is my kingdom. Thank you very much. This moves us from a model of individual effort to a model that requires us to come out of our classrooms and our offices and assume collective responsibility for the success of our students. These are big changes. Congratulations for sticking with it and being willing to take these things on. Now, one more slide on the career and academic communities, because these are the kinds of things we're seeing for colleges that are kind of where you are, launching, but wanting to enrich and continue and sustain and improve and organizing around their meta majors. And so we're thinking about that contextualized dev ed, the academic skill building within the meta major. We're thinking about that common first semester course schedule. We know we have assigned or embedded advisors. You have these teams. Other colleges have different kinds of multifunctional, cross-functional, collaborative teams. We know it's important to do that. One of the best educational experiences I've had recently was at Gutman Community College in New York. Some of you may have heard me describe this. They have 5 meta majors, and I happened to be there on a day at the end of the semester when their teams were meeting to reflect about the semester. And the agenda for their discussion, I sat in on it all day long. It was fascinating. They have the faculty, they have the embedded advisors, but they also invite in resource people who are kind of assigned to attach to their teams. So somebody who knows a whole lot about student learning outcomes assessment or instructional technology or whatever, different areas of specialty. So they talked about things like, we think we got this course sequence wrong, that this course really needs to go before this other course. And then they said, we got 2 really important program level learning outcomes we've identified, and they're not being taught anywhere. Let's talk about where they need to be in the curriculum. And we need to enhance our applied learning in this area. And they talked about those kinds of things and their learning outcomes assessments. And then they talked about Charlie. They talked about individual students and how those students were faring. And I remember Charlie because Charlie was in trouble. Charlie had come in and been put in the box of being the class clown. And the students kept him in that box when he was really beginning to take his bioscience seriously, and he couldn't get out of the box. And they said, if we don't help Charlie, something bad's going to happen here. And so it was, is there a better kind of educational conversation for advisors and faculty members and others to be engaged in than talking about the curriculum, talking about the quality of their teaching, and talking about Charlie? Talking about James. What happened to James, and what could we have designed or done differently that would have changed James's life? Talking about embedded, discipline-appropriate academic support, not just in math and English, but in milestone courses that are important for students' progress through those academic pathways. Talking about the experiential applied learning, the aligned co-curricular learning. Does this give you enough to do for a while? So this last part is the most fun. I'll come right back to you. I see you. And I heard you talking about, you've got colors and buttons. right? Other colleges have lanyards. they have T-shirts. They have here's a really cool one from St. Petersburg College: Facebook workplace pages for each of the CACs. Social media for students. It's private, but students are posting stuff about study groups, and faculty are posting things about guest speakers, and they use this stuff. And it really is a part of building that learning community within the meta major. So that's one of the ideas that has emerged. These are important things for students. Contextualizing orientation and student success courses into the career and academic communities, all of that is about building connection, building community, and building an experience that lasts for students. So, this is why I do this work. And Jana told you I was going to say this. Any of you who are not familiar with the Equality of Opportunity Project, I recommend it to you. You can Google it. There's actually a database that you can get to through the New York Times that shows how colleges, your college, how colleges differentially contribute to the social and economic upward mobility of their students. There are differences across colleges, and that we can affect the way that occurs. I think that if there is any unique contribution of the American Community College, it is in building social and economic upward mobility for our citizens who otherwise would not have that opportunity. But achieving equity doesn't happen by itself. It doesn't happen because we're good people with good intentions, and that's why we work in the community college. It simply does not. It requires change, and this is what you've been doing in the educational experience that we design for students, as it incorporates the best of what we know, because I believe, and our evidence emerging is showing, that the model itself, informed decision making, a clear path, embedded support. The model itself is going to promote our equity agenda, but not if we are not conscious about getting past simple disaggregation of data and being willing to look at practices and policies and structures within our colleges that unintentionally perseverate rather than eliminate disproportionate outcomes for students. This is hard work, and it requires that we have a serious intentionality with each design decision we make, with the way we train advisors for conversations with students, the way we help students make choices, opening up options rather than closing them down. And so let's look at these. Some of you have heard me harp on this, and you will continue to hear me harp because it's illustrative. Tony Carnevale at the National Center on Education and the Workforce at Georgetown University puts out large-scale research which shows that across American higher education, Black and Hispanic students are enrolled in disproportionately high numbers in programs that lead to low-paying jobs. Do you hear what I'm saying? This is us perpetuating economic disparity and disproportionate outcomes. That's us. Not intentionally, because we're bad people, and often it's because we're trying to do the right thing. Like, we can get you into this 6-week certificate program and you can come out making better money, or some money, which is better than where you are now living in your car. Or we can talk to somebody about doing a CNA certificate and never have the conversation about being a pediatric cardiologist. And so here are a set of hard questions. I'm going to tell you, I'm getting less and less polite about this. Hard questions. One is, do we offer programs for which there are no jobs? Do we offer programs, by the way, I'm a psych major. There are no jobs for psych majors until you have advanced degrees. Okay, students need to know that because psych is one of our biggest majors, right? So do we offer programs which students can spend 2 years in our college completing and not make more money than they would have been making before they started? The answer to that is yes. Do we offer programs for which students can complete and be making wages at the federal poverty level when they complete? The answer to that is yes, we do. The question is, should we do that? So one of the forest fires I've been starting is about early childhood education. It's a societal and community value. I mean, actually, we don't value it very much or we would pay them more. But it's a societal and community need, right? And you can look up the wages for those workers in the Denver and Boulder area, but I will tell you, I did it recently in Maricopa County, and the wages are at the federal poverty level. And the students that are in those programs, what do they look like? They are black and brown women. You see some white women in the industry and management. You never see any guys anywhere. So these are hard. Did I say this was hard? These are hard questions, but they are about structural inequity. And we have to be cognizant of them. And my major point is, should we eliminate early childhood as a program? No. Should we be transparent with students about what the prospects are and what the wages are and what you would have to do to become a manager or to move into an elementary and secondary or that sort of thing? Transparency and informed decision making is our obligation, first and foremost. There has been no greater civil rights violation committed by community colleges than standalone sequences of developmental education programs. And we did that for years, believing we were doing the right thing. And we have heroically committed and passionate people who have been doing that work on our behalf. And I salute them. And now we know we need to stop doing it. And now we know that there are alternatives that are going to serve our students much better. And that by itself is going to be a huge boon to our equity agenda. Congratulations. The video that I just showed you, embedding academic support within that curriculum, making it a part of the way we do college here, making it a part of every student's experience, is going to help the students who need the help most. And we have great examples of colleges that are working with community-based organizations and others whose job it is to make sure that students get connected to other agencies and other forms of support, state, federal support, and so on, to help them become financially stable and able to continue their education with us. Comments? Questions about this?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
You mentioned concurrent enrollment, dual credit, and I think this issue of equity begins even in the high school.
It does. Austin, Texas, Austin Community College recently finally looked at that, and they found out that most of their dual and concurrent students are wealthy white kids from the west side of Austin. Okay, now we know that. What are we going to do about it? Your point. It begins with the students who don't have to hold 2 jobs after school. And that sort of thing. So thank you. That's the lens that we need to bring to these conversations, that we need to be willing to say, hey, how are we contributing to this in ways that we may not recognize, or maybe doing something that we think is right, but it produces disproportionate outcomes that we need to address. Okay. Let's hear more from you. Yes. I'm sorry, I told you I'd come back and then I forgot.
So my question goes back to the CAC.
Speak up.
My question goes back to the CAC team.
Yes.
Sorry, I have a little voice. It's the stressors are with faculty and advising. Are there any good examples where admissions are a part of that team, creating that training about the map, making sure students belong before they meet? On campus for new student orientation. Because I have my admissions reps, I'm the director of admissions, assigned to CACs as their contacts.
Yeah.
But what I really want to do is start building that community between advising faculty and admissions?
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think you can be a pioneer. I don't know of great examples except for the thought that CAC teams should include at their core, program faculty and the embedded advisors, but that they should have assigned liaisons from learning resources, from instructional design, from admissions and recruitment, and so on. That just makes good sense because that's the way we're organizing ourselves around the student experience. We do have colleges that, and their websites have done some really cool things. Like if you go to Indian River, they have an animated video that explains meta majors to students. Some of you may have seen that. That's the sort of beginning. It's the very first thing that they encounter. And as you well know, the message has to be not once, but multiple times through the students as they walk through from first connection to actually getting to class. So you're thinking in exactly the right ways. I think you're going to find as you work with high schools, as you put out, the Texas folks have an online common application, but they're asking students to identify tentatively a meta major in their initial application. So that they can be invited to the orientation and the other things that need to follow there. So ingenuity, yeah. What else? Floor is open. Yes, ma'am.
So I understand that, and it makes me nervous when you're talking about prerequisites being eliminated.
I didn't say eliminating prerequisites. I said eliminating standalone prerequisite sequences of courses students need to make their way through in order to be in college. And I will say we need to just stop doing that. So let's talk.
I guess I've seen it the other way. Like I've seen students enter college algebra, which is like the first big transfer level course, and they're getting in on high school transcripts or something that's not a placement test, and they just don't do well even with the co-requisite labs. Like, because they just don't have the skills, or it's been too long for them. Like, and I've seen a lot of great success with people who started at the beginning and go all the way up, and they're a lot stronger in those skills.
I'm going to start backwards. The data, your data may be different. I'm going to give you that. I'm sure you're a brilliant teacher. The data for your college and the data for the state and the data for the national do not support lots of students succeeding and getting through those sequences of courses. They do not. They do not. And I thought I had slides that show that on here, but I don't. The work was done at CCRC. Number two, what we are learning in the co-requisite work, and I've got to tell you, I've been a skeptic about this from the beginning, because I worry about the least prepared students who may not be successful if placed by default into college level courses with co-requisite support, because those students are most likely to be low income, Black and brown. So I worry about that along with you. But the data that we are seeing is really hard to argue against, and the data are coming from many statewide implementations, from many college-wide scaled implementations, and it's piling up, and it's showing us that lower and lower score levels for ACT, SAT, or the standardized placement test scores, that co-requisite instruction can be effective in substantially improving. Tripling the results in half the time is the standard. Getting 3 times the successful completions of college level math and English in half of the time that has been required is kind of the typical thing. Now, what can also happen is that the failure rates will go up because you're putting more students into the college level courses directly with co-requisite support, and not all of them are going to make it, and that's what we still need to worry about, and I invite you to worry with me. We need within our meta majors to have intensive, accelerated, effective ways like ASAP, like CUNY START, like IBEST models, like other things that do address with the very least prepared students how we can most effectively move them to successful completion of the college level courses. We do have examples, we do have data, we need to do more work. It can be done, but the answer is not sequences of standalone prerequisite courses, because we know definitively they do not work. And most of all, they do not work for students of color. Yeah?
So when you say a standalone prerequisite, do you mean it doesn't have a prerequisite?
No, yeah, no, I'm talking about, you know, the 3 levels of math, or the 5 levels of math, or the 2 levels of writing and reading, and most people are combining those things, which they need to do. That is the model we've been using, is the model we thought was the right way to do it. And a few fortunate students made through it, but unfortunately they're usually in the single digits in terms of percentages. You know, the reality there, and you know the research, is that we lose more students out of those prerequisite sequences because they don't enroll in the courses than because they enroll and fail. Did you know that? The losses are between the courses because they are not connecting and not having purpose, and they see this as a never-ending experience out of which they won't emerge.
Well, then they deplete their financial aid.
Right, exactly.
They
Yeah.
can't take college.
Yeah.
credit.
So, but thank you for speaking up, and thank you for caring about that, and please be part of the solution for the students that are least likely to be most successful in default placement in college level. Thank you. All right, what else? Yes?
What about our ESL students or needs to increase? I mean, that's something that we work with our ESL students that even take ESL classes. They're some credits, so it's kind of hard when they go into it. They don't even take the ESL class.
ESL and adult basic education are 2 of the bridges that colleges are now starting, you know, in version 2.0 and version 3.0 to get more serious about. ESL is a good example from the IBEST model that was born in Washington State. If you're not familiar with it, you can look at it because it's a way of teaching English language skills while it's contextualized, while students begin learning their nursing or their engineering or their whatever their other CAC might be. So you know, that is an unsolved, from my standpoint, version of this, but colleges are going to get to it because we have to.
Well, as it is now, it's a privilege to be able to take an ESL class because they're paying for it.
Yeah.
And financial aid is not. So I think that's one of the issues that a lot of our Latino students are facing.
You bet. Like they didn't have other issues. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. We said there was more work to do. All right. What else? You all are fabulous. And we're going to finish. So let me do that with one last student.
And with one wrong action or one wrong word, you can totally turn them off and they'll turn around and walk out the door and never come back. They need to remember that they hold this person's futures in their hands, this person's future in their hands, this person's future in their hands, 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 in their hands.
Thank you, Front Range. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for
Thank you so much, Dr. McClenney. Before any of you are allowed to leave, we have a really important oath for you to take now, and I'm going to pass it.
Oh. Okay. Please rise. And repeat after me. As ambassadors of student success at Front Range, I will refer to career and academic communities as CACs. I will never say CAC. Oops, I just did. But that's the last time. I swear.